Is my voice audible?
Yeah, it is audible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is doing safe. So today we are here at a master certified 2 days masterclass on fundraising and how to create investment ready pitch deck. This is being organized by ISRED India in association with Pitchcrafts and Consultancy Ventures. So we are having our two subject experts, Mr. Tushar Kansal, founder and CEO for Consultancy Ventures, and he's also a experienced venture capital expert. And other we have Mr. Ayush Sachdeva. He's founder and CEO of Pitchcrafts. So today we'll be having a session on fundraising as a process, which will be delivered by Mr. Tushar Kansal sir. And tomorrow we'll be having a session on how to create an investment ready pitch deck, and that will be delivered by Mr. Ayush Sachdeva. I welcome both of you on board, and also all the other participants who are here. So now I hand over to Mr. Tushar sir to start with this session on fundraising, and all the participants can have their questions at the Q&A, and they can post it, and at the end of the session we can take your questions whichever you are having. And yes, there I can see some of the other participants asking questions about for e-certificates. So if this is a live certified master class, so I guess that certificates will be there. So first, please gain the knowledge uh, from these 2 days, and certificates will be given to everyone. So now I hand over to Mr. Tushar Kansal. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, ISERD. Thank you, Ayush. Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here to give this masterclass. Uh, we have to understand factors like why is venture capital important in today's times? How does seed stage funding work? What are the funding options for the startup? When is the right time to raise funds? And how to find investors for your startup? So, me, Tushar Kansal, I will try to answer all your questions one by one. Let me start with my introduction first. I am Tushar Kansal. Company name is Consultancy Ventures. Uh, I, I have more than 20 years of experience in finance space and specifically venture capital space. I've handled private equity assignments at Deloitte and Touche, at Brand Capital, which is Times of India's venture arm, and was heading treasury at the Russian telecom company MTS, and was CFO with the logistics company, which is owned by the American private equity fund Guggenheim Partners. In the last 7 years, I have built relationships with more than 600 global investors. I help companies get access to venture capital, and I'm also a mentor and judge at entrepreneurship cells of IIT Mumbai, IIT Delhi, IIT Chennai, and IIT ISM Dhanbad. I am also a venture advisor with Loyal VC, the INSEAD-led Canadian VC fund, having a core portfolio of more than 160 investments in 135 countries. I'm also a partner with GSD Venture Studios, which is a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. I have appeared in more than 125 talks since October. You can check my homepage on Venture Capital TV, on YouTube, and my website consultancy.com. Academically, I am a executive education from Harvard Business School, MBA in finance from University of Delhi, and also an engineer. So, coming to the main topic, why is venture capital important? So, if we are living in such times that the way of earning money, it is also impacted by a large macro and microeconomic factors. If we are doing a job, if we are in a service, then we get a salary, and that salary, if we are living in India, we pay a income tax of 30%. If you are living in US, we pay a tax of 40%. But if you are a money investor, you invest your money and then earn return on it. That's your main line of business. You invest money. Then in the US, you pay 0% tax. And in India, you pay 10% tax. And in Singapore, you pay 10% tax. So the taxation system is skewed towards making money from money, and that is why investment is important. But if you want to earn money through investments, then you will have to uh, what are the options in front of you? The options are you can invest in a fixed deposit in a bank, or you can invest in stock markets, or you can invest in commodities, you can invest in oil, gold, copper, or you can invest in cryptocurrencies, which are the new asset class. So let us see what you get when you invest. When you invest in fixed deposit of a bank, it is the safest investment. The money you get if you are investing in dollars is 0.5% per year. If you are investing in euros in a fixed deposit FD in a bank, you get 0.25% per year. If you are investing yen, which is the Japanese currency, you have to pay the bank to keep your money. The interest rates are negative. So the safest kind of investment is not getting you any good return. If you're keeping the money in a fixed deposit in an Indian bank, you still get 4.5% post-tax return. So where, how do you earn money from money? If you invest in stock markets, the stock markets are very volatile. So you can invest in commodities. The commodities are also very volatile. So what has happened is that the US and Europe and the developed economies, they are dealing with an economy which is very much used to high liquidity. And high liquidity means a lot of cash available with the companies, a lot of money being printed by governments, and that money getting invested and chasing asset classes. And because it is chasing asset classes, the value of asset classes is very high. So we see stock markets always reaching new highs. We see oil now climbing back to $80 a barrel. We see gold, copper again going up, and cryptocurrencies, which are supposed to be a new asset class. There are more than 500,000 so-called currencies, digital currencies. These currencies are nothing. They can't be used anywhere. They're just a number on the screen. But the value of total value of bitcoins, outstanding bitcoins, even today is $2.5 trillion. So we are living in times when money is so much available and chasing so-called assets. The value of assets is piercing through the roof. And there comes the importance of venture capital. Venture capital means to invest in unlisted private companies. These are the riskiest kind of investment because 7 out of 10 companies fail, they shut down. 1 out of 10 company just makes a living. The ninth company would probably be 3 or 4 times, but the investor will wait for the 1/10th company which can go 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, or 400 times. And we are living in such times that the returns from venture capital are the best returns as given by any asset class. Whether you compare it with private investments, you compare it with real estate, you compare it with stock markets, you compare it with any asset class. And the reason for that is a lot of money is chasing quality companies. A lot of technology is available more than any point in the history of this planet. So in 1999, we had the dot-com boom and bust. In 2008, we had the Lehman crisis, and now the COVID crisis. But all through this time, uh, we are seeing that the technology is marching on. Let me give you some more statistics. I hope you know what it means by seed investment, pre-seed investment, by early stage investment like Series E, Series A, and Series B, and late stage investment like Series C and D and E. So basically, the later you take money, the more is the series. So initially you take seed money, then you take pre-series A, then you take series A, then you take series B. So this is way it is divided. Now, global venture funding has risen to more than $325 billion across sectors. And those industries which have been disrupted by the global pandemic, the COVID, like work, healthcare, education, finance, shopping, entertainment, all these sectors have dramatically shifted to online services. And this in turn has created a boom for technical infrastructure and cloud services companies. And it has led to a lot of technology companies becoming very big. And these technology companies are coming out with IPOs, which means raising money from the stock market, and they are doing a lot of M&As, mergers and acquisitions. The late stage venture capital is also growing, and the private equity, which means more than $50 million funding, they are also growing. The deal volume has grown uh, for in 2011, around 10,000 rounds of funding happened, right from seed to late stage. But in 2018, it was around 35,000. So it is, the number of rounds of funding is also growing up. And in 2020, more than 1,500 companies were acquired in the US alone by 1,300 acquirers for $150 billion, which are the global funds who are active and who are making the most of this opportunity, the venture capital opportunity. You will see Sequoia Capital is the number one, then Axel Partners, Tiger Global. Tiger Global has doubled down on India. Every recent news you see of any company becoming a unicorn, unicorn means a company valued at more than $1 billion. Every company you will see Tiger Global present there. And then Bessemer Venture Partners, General Catalyst, Insight Partners. And if you talk about India, then Elevation Capital, which recently raised $400 million. Or you see Fireside Ventures, or you see DSG Consumer Partners, or K Capital. All these funds are doubling down on India, and they are investing big time. Now, uh, one trend which is showing is that at seed stage, which is the first stage of funding, more and more ticket sizes available. So you have companies earlier raising $24 million or $30 million, and in the seed stage, that is in the first round stage. And now you have companies raising $40 million. $40 million were raised recently by a company 2 days back, and that was the seed stage capital. Now you will wonder that at the seed stage, how is a company raising $40 million? But let me tell you, 10 Club, which is the company which raised $40 million in the seed stage, they had business contracts in hand for $15 million. So they had tied up business contracts, and all that business needed to be converted to revenue, and all that business was there to show to the investor. So the investor put 5 investors in total, they put $40 million. And this $40 million is more than 30 million which was put in Acco Insurance, 30 million which was put in Cred, 30 million which was put in InMoney, 24 million in Jupiter, 18.5 million in Uni, and 13.2 million in Epi. And all this money available at the seed stage is growing like a trend. But another trend which is showing is that late stage activity and late stage valuations are surging. So investors say, why should we not invest early in the company? We are going to take a lot of risk. But if the company does well, we will make a huge amount of return. And the second set of investors, they say, if you are taking so much of risk by investing early in some companies, then why not accept high valuations of late stage companies and invest more money there? Because in any case, when you are investing in late stage, the risk is less. So these are the different thoughts which are playing across investment activity. Now in India, it is raining unicorns, as in companies with valuation of more than $1 billion. It is, they are getting created every day. 14 startups made it to the list in first 4 months of 2021, and the companies range from health tech, social commerce, infrastructure technology, e-pharmacy, and 8 startups: Cred, which is a fintech startup; ShareChat, which is a social media startup; Grow, which is a wealth management startup; Gupshup, which is a messaging platform; Meesho, which is a social commerce startup; and PharmEasy, which is a e-pharmacy startup. They entered the Unicorn Club in April 2021. And PharmEasy, an online pharmacy company, bought for 4,500 crores a 30-year-old brick and mortar company called Thyrocare. So online companies eating up offline companies. This is the same trend which I saw recently in the US market, where fintech companies were buying banks which are present since hundreds of years. This new fintech company, within 2-3 years, they became so big that they are buying out banks. And this is a trend which will continue. Credit Suisse came out with a report recently. It said that although the funding rounds are happening and unicorns are being created, but uh, as per the financials of a lot of unlisted companies, in India already has more than 100 unicorns. So we are looking at a time when all this funding will keep on happening in these unicorns. The media and the news will keep on showing you multiple billion-dollar numbers and keep on motivating a lot of founders. Uh, I remember 1.5 years back, I was talking to somebody in Startup India, which is a division of DPIT, the government platform for startups. And he said that there are 30,000 startups which have registered in Startup India. And only last month, I was speaking again to somebody, and he said 50,000 startups are now registered in Startup India. So within 1.5 years, from 30,000 to 50,000. So this is the craze of operating your own company, taking high risk, and also get high reward if you succeed. And across sectors, technology is playing a major role in this process. Now, coming to the first question, how seed stage funding works. Seed stage funding works when you understand why would an investor invest in your company. The day you understand why would an investor invest in your company, that day itself you will understand how seed stage funding works. So let me do one thing. Let me take you to some points of what investors look for when they are uh, investing in a company. So if you can see the screen, we have problem statement, which means what is the problem you are solving in your business. We have the solution, which is are you solving it by um, like Meesho? Meesho is a social commerce startup. Now, a lot of companies who are in manufacturing, they don't know how to put their products on e-commerce sites, on Myntra, on Jabong, on GeoMart, on Amazon, on Flipkart. So what Meesho did was, Meesho uh, uh, made started calling these people, they are called resellers. These people, they buy stuff from existing manufacturers, put it on the website of e-commerce companies and sell it. So Meesho became a place where resellers registered themselves. And today, Meesho, which is a unicorn, it has more than 1.3 million resellers. 13 lakh people are using Meesho to resell the products of other companies using the social commerce platform. Then the team behind, the founder is deeply interested, the investor is deeply interested to know how is the team. In fact, he's betting on the team essentially. So whether the team has technology people, marketing people, finance people, whether it has the product people, and how balanced is the team, what is the they have a word for it, founder market fit. How fit is the founder in this particular market in which they are operating? Market size is very important, because if you are operating in a market which has very small size, then your valuation will not go beyond a level. Because how much business can you do if you are operating in a small market? So market size is important. Product is very important. I have seen founders who create such a beautiful product that they immediately show the product to the investor. And the investor, when he uses the product and he says, I want to put money in this product. So product is very important. More important than the product is the business model. Business model means how will you earn from that product? उसको पैसा कैसे आएगा? How will you earn? That is the most important. Then traction means what is the business you are currently doing, revenue, turnover. Competitor analysis, which means who is your competition. Competitive advantages, which means how are you better or different than the competition. Then financial projections, the investor wants to know in the next 5 years how much business will you do, and during this time when you will do this business, what will be your operating profit, what will be your net profit. So unit economics has become very important, that each product, each service or product which you sell, you should make a profit on it. This is called unit economics. So we have seen such bad business models that companies, they bleed, they make losses. And investors, after the WeWork debacle, IPO debacle, they started asking for unit economics. Then the ask means what is the amount of funds you are wanting to raise. Use of funds, since the investor is giving you his money, how will you use it? Whether you will use it in marketing, say 20% in marketing, 30% in product development, 20% in team building, and so on. And the future roadmap. Future roadmap would mean that how many new products you will launch in which year, how many customers you will get, say 1 year from now, 2 year from now, and all those milestones. They are called the way ahead. So this is what the investor wants. And how seed stage funding works is you present yourself in the best possible manner in front of the investor. Now, when you want to approach the investor, then you have to naturally approach through someone who knows the investor. Because if someone knows the investor, then there will be trust. The investor will trust you. So he will know that, no, this guy means business and this guy is a genuine guy. So it is always better to have a investment banker by your side. So like we are investment banking unit, what we do is we help uh, the startups or companies make their pitch deck, make their valuation, do the valuation of the company, make their business plan. And when we do this, we also help them as to how to answer the investor, what are the frequently asked questions of the investor, how to present your unit economics. Then, the investor, when he decides to put in money, he issues a document which is called the term sheet. So the term sheet has clauses: how much will the investor invest, what is the return he is looking for, what are the exit clauses, how will he exit from the company after 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, and what are his rights, what are his rights on the board of directors. So we help in negotiation of a good term sheet, getting a good valuation also. And then we do valuation of the company. Valuation can be done by many methods. The best method is discounted cash flow, so we use that. And lastly, we help with the signing of the shareholders agreement. And after the shareholders agreement gets signed, then the company receives the money. So in seed stage funding, you have to create a pitch deck, which is a 15 slide document. You have to connect with the investors, answer their questions. They might ask you more data, and present yourself in a very nice fashion. Wear good clothes when the calls are going on. Always, you know, present your best self. Shave yourself and look professional, and come to the calls on time, and don't start eating when the call is going on. And all these things are very basic things, and having a good pitch deck goes a long way. Now, what are the funding options for the startup? The funding options for the startup, uh, actually government of India also gives you some money. If you apply in Startup India and Invest India, then you can get 25 to 50 lakh rupees. But the problem with that is that it takes long time. It will take 1 year to complete the entire paperwork and convincing the Invest India people, and presenting yourself, and finally getting that money. The second option is angel investor. So nowadays everybody is an angel investor. If you are a businessman who owns a factory, you will feel, let me earn money by investing. So you are an angel investor. Now I have seen that the Indian angel investors, they put 5 lakhs to 25 lakhs, maximum 30, 32, 35 lakhs. And those who are earning in dollars in Singapore, like their bankers in Singapore, Dubai, Hong Kong, they put in crores. They can put easily 1 crore, 2 crore, 2.5, 3 crore, 4 crore, in this range. The third option is family offices. So a lot of the business families in India, they also want to earn by investing the money. So they have opened family offices. And family offices put their money in two ways. One, they put their money in venture capital funds. And from venture capital funds, it goes to the startup. And second, they put money directly in a startup. So they also are very conscious that they belong to a business family, and the main business of the business family, they always keep in mind. So, if Times Internet puts in money in a company, and if it is putting in money in a media company, so it will have that thought in mind, that we are already a media group, we are already a business media group, and we are putting money in another media startup. So maybe later on we will buy this startup. And also, since we will be putting money in the startup, we will get to know about their business, how they are doing their business. So all those factors come in when family offices put money in a company. Then after angels, after family offices, and after government related funding, then comes venture capital. So venture capital guys, they put in $200,000, $100,000. So 50 lakhs, 75 lakhs, all up to $5 million, $7 million, and the foreign VC funds, they put in more. So they can put in 10 million, 15 million. The Indian ones, they put less. Not specifically Indian ones, but the Asian ones, they put less. And but the time, the decision taking time is not much. They decide quite fast. And the last option in funding option is private equity funds. And private equity funds are the big ones like Brookfield, Bravia, General Atlantic, like Abu Dhabi Investment Fund, like the Saudi Arabian Investment Fund, like Temasek of Singapore, the government company of Singapore. So like Khazana, which is the Malaysian fund. So these guys put in big money. So they will not invest anything less than $100 million, $200 million. And as I told you, the economies are of the West are printing a lot of money. So there is a lot of money available for putting in late stage also by private equity funds. So I answered two questions: how seed stage funding works and funding options for your startup. You can also look at debt in the funding options. Nowadays, revenue-based financing has picked up. It means, I will explain you in simple terms. If you borrow 100 rupees from a revenue-based financing company like Velocity, and you have an online business, so whatever you sell, the money comes on your through online channel, through a payment gateway. So you take 100 rupees debt, you will have to return 150 rupees back to Velocity, to from where you have taken the debt. But there will be no collateral. You don't have to keep your real estate as a collateral. But how will Velocity, the revenue-based financing company, how will they get paid? So put uh, they will put a technology on the payment gateway. So when you are selling something for 100 rupees, 2.5%, yani it means 2.5 rupees, will go directly to Velocity from the payment gateway, and you will receive the balance money. So they will keep on charging you this 2.5% till the time they recover not only their 100 rupees, but also more money. So instead of 100, they will take 150 rupees. So, that is their business model. So that is one good option which has opened up. The next question is, when is the right time for raising funds? The best time to raise funds is when your proof of concept has been done. Secondly, your minimum viable product has been done, which means that you have tested that this product has a capacity to earn money. Third, your PMF has been done, product market fit. PMF means that your pricing has been decided, your target customer has been decided, your distribution strategy has been decided, how will you earn your money, commission, whether it is commission or it is rentals or it is monthly rental or quarterly rental, all those things have been decided. And once you do your PMF, and that is the time when you are getting revenue. And once you get good revenue in 2 to 3 months, that is the time when you tell the investor, I need money. and I need money basically for marketing, because the investor loves it when you take money for marketing, because he says the product is ready, the team is ready, the whole market has been researched, the distribution strategy is ready. I just need to, I have everything, the proof of everything. Now they just need money. So to my mind, that is the best time of raising funds, because you will get a very good valuation. uh, like, people say that the company recently raised how much, $40 million. So they say that, sir, that company raised $40 million, so why can't we raise $100 million? See, I am no one to tell you don't raise $100 million. Definitely go and raise $100 million. But this company which raised $40 million, it had business contracts in hand of $15 million. So they did their work first, then they got this money. Like Cred of Kunal Shah and Jupiter of Jitendra Gupta. Cred got $30 million, Jupiter got $24 million. Now, both Kunal Shah and Jitendra Gupta, they had already created companies, sold it at multiple millions of dollars, and so they had a track record. So the investors said they have already done it, and that is why they put 30 million and 24 million. Otherwise, usually, what investors sometimes do is uh, they bet on the good college people, like people from IIT, people from MIT, Stanford, uh, IIMs. So they feel that these guys have proven their quality, so we can put money on these people. And otherwise, this kind of fundraise in seed stage is usually not seen. I have seen since 7 years a lot of these fundraisers, but again, it's more like $2 million, $5 million. It's like $500,000. It's in that range. So the last question is how to find investors for your startup. So as I told you, you get a good advisor, you get a good mentor, you make a very nice balanced team, you find a problem statement, find a good solution, and most importantly, create a good pitch deck. Create a good pitch deck, create a good business plan, create a good, get your valuation done. Um, and then you should be knowing all the things about your business. If the investor asks you anything, you should be knowing all of them. And you should be able to explain your business in simple words. If you are able to explain your business in simple words, that goes a long way. And if it is a problem which is a daily problem of people, some like people are troubled by some problem every day, if you are solving that kind of a problem, then uh, you'll get money faster. Like Uber, we in India, finding a taxi was very difficult. You had to go to a taxi stand, there people were sleeping, you had to wake up these people, negotiate, and then now you have it on the smartphone. 70 crore, 700 million Indians have a smartphone. So you have a technology platform already in their hands, and it is very sticky. One research says that 6 to 8 hours per day is the average time people spend on smartphones. So you already have a platform on which to create your business. You should just know how to solve a particular problem of the customer and provide the solution on his smartphone. What about the smartphone? I have recently, a company came to me. They have created a technology that people who are using feature phones. Feature phones are those phones which are without the internet. So they have created a technology that you can do banking transactions on feature phones without the internet. So they have gone even beyond smartphones. So this is the way you can find investors for your startup. If you want us to help you, we are approach me on my LinkedIn or email me at tk@consultancy.com, and or you can look at my website, which is consultancy.com, and happy uh, to help you with your fundraise. I will just share my screen so that you can see the email ID, the WhatsApp, and the LinkedIn. And I will also drop my LinkedIn details on chat. And it is 4:45 p.m. So happy to close my discussion and take questions from all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, Ayush. Thank you, ISERD. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tushar sir. It was a great insights into how a person can or a startup can go on with the fundraising. So we have one question. If you can throw some light on this, Mr. Gunasekharan, he's asking how to do the financial forecasting or prepare a financial model. If you can answer on this, or Ayush, anyone.
Financial forecasting is done by understanding, first of all, your revenue heads. That basically, how will you get your money? How will you get your revenue? Once you have your revenue heads, then you should know your cost heads. And there are two ways how people calculate their revenue heads. One is a top down approach, and the top down approach is like market size. Market size is this much. I will capture 5% of this market in 5 years. So you have a number from there. Or you can say the biggest company in the field has a turnover of this much. I will try to achieve 25% of that. So these are the two ways you can get revenue heads. Then you should know how to calculate your cost head. And the cost head means where your money is going, uh, and what are the costs associated with capital expenditure, like maybe buying a office, or operational expenses like buying food for the staff, like salaries. And the last is what is the taxation. So if you have this profit and loss statement in front of you for 5 years, that is a projection which can tell you more about your cash flow. And the cash flow will have some items from the balance sheet also. So like working capital, like any dividends. So those things will come from the cash flow, from the balance sheet. And once you have a cash flow, then you can have a good idea of what cash flows, incoming cash flows, and net free cash flows are available to you in the next 5 years. And actually, sir, we do our valuations basis that only. We do our valuations basis free cash flows which are available to the company in the next 5 years. And I will request Ayush to throw some more light on this. He's an expert in this. Ayush.
Thank you, Tushar sir. Actually, Tushar sir said absolutely right. Making a financial forecast and making a financial model. First, like get your revenue model right. Okay, understand what type of revenue streams you have. It is possible that you are focusing on the first, like one revenue stream. There could be two and three other revenue streams also. Then the two parts are the market, okay, like how big is the market, because obviously you cannot go bigger than the market, right? So you have a cap on yourself. And then there are other competitors also. To study the competitors, okay, if you're an idea stage startup, okay, or you're just starting up, okay, or like very early, then study the competitors and see who is doing what type of revenue and what are the revenue streams. If you are already, let's say you are a revenue stage company, you're already making money, then it's easy for you to do the like forecast, because you already have your P&L and balance sheet in hand. Okay, you have to see how many customers you can achieve with your new marketing budget that you are asking from the investor. If you are asking a budget from investor, okay, like a marketing budget, then you can take that marketing budget. If when you spend like that marketing budget in the market, you'll be getting the customers, okay. Like let's say first year marketing budget is, let's say, 500k USD, you're spending it, right? Then you will calculate you will have your already from past previous records, you'll be having your CAC, cost to acquire a customer. Then you can calculate how much more customers you can acquire in future. According to it, okay, let's say you have a number of customers that you will acquire in future, you can calculate your next year revenues. Okay, so once you have the marketing budget, you can calculate the next year revenues, or you can see, like as Tushar said, you can follow a top line approach. First calculate the top line and then calculate the expenses related to it. If you're a manufacturing company, okay, yeah, like you have a, like you are making a product, you should know what's your COGS, okay, cost of goods sold. How much do you spend on packaging? What's transportation? What's marketing cost? Okay, you can divide it, okay, and then make a P&L and then forecast it for the future. Okay, if you need more help in creating the complete financial models, or like understand why a financial model is important, you can definitely reach out to Tushar sir or me. Okay, I hope we have answered your question.
Ayush, very well explained. So just to add, whatever terms Ayush used, like CAC, customer acquisition cost, uh, all these things. Uh, so these are very basic backbones of creating a business model, financial model, and they help you understand your business better, but they vary from business to business. So that is why once we create this thing for you, we will be better able to explain what are they. So in case we do your
Funding.
funding.
Thank you, Ayush and Tushar. So there is one more question.
Mhm.
How do I convince investors about the financial health of my company?
So what happens is the investor, if he's investing in early stage, then I will give you the example. There is a angel network. What they do is, they first of all, they have CA empaneled with them. CAs, the investor has CAs empaneled with them, and they, if you are saying, sir, we operate in a small city, or we operate in a big city like Indore, and in Indore we have sold this much, and this is my background. So they will ask their CA firm to find out whether that was true or not. And there is a limited due diligence and there is a long due diligence. Limited due diligence is means 3-day due diligence. So they will check your accounting, they will check your legal agreements and contracts, and they will check whether, from a government perspective, statutory perspective, your company has been formed properly, and all the laws are met, and the tax has been paid properly. So they do this limited due diligence. Now, in some cases, when the operations of the company is big, then they do detailed due diligence. So if you are saying your distributors are sitting across India, and you are based out of Bangalore, so they will talk to some distributors. They will meet some distributors. So I'm telling you all this, that these are the checks which investor conducts before investing in your company. So they will first talk to you, they will convince themselves, they will meet you, and then they will issue you a term sheet. And once the term sheet gets signed by both the parties, the investor and you have accepted the term sheet, then they keep a company for due diligence. and then they check all this background. Now, how can you convince the investor about your financial health? If you are in a food business in India, it is very cash driven. So, the food founders tell me that, Tushar, our competitors are selling so much in cash. And if I sell in white, and if I pay taxes to the government, my cost of product will go up. Then how will I compete with these people who are not paying taxes? So there is no practical solution to this problem from an investor perspective. Investor wants everything in white. He wants everything properly accounted for. He wants everything recorded, audited, and he wants to keep a good CA firm, and he wants the accounts to be proper and no cash business. So, if you want to convince your investor, and if you have a large cash based business, I am really sorry. You will have to pay tax, convert everything into white, do a proper audited balance sheet, and then only you can convince the investor. But I have a very good news for you. And the good news is, nowadays, people don't earn so much from profit and loss. They earn from the value of their equity, the share value. Tesla will make its first profit in 2023, 2.5 years from now. But the value of shares of Tesla listed on the stock exchange is $900 billion, which is more than the combined valuation of all car makers. So, car se acha, what will you earn from the selling of cars? Compare it with what you are earning there on the balance sheet. You are earning in multiples of profit and loss. So here your profit can be 50 crores, but there your value of the company can be 5,000 crores. So which one will you prefer more? Will you prefer to dilute 5 to 10% of your company and get 500 crores? Or will you prefer to think that no, let me save tax, let me buy more, sell more in cash? So, that is a short-term way. The long-term way, if you want to go on the venture capital route, is to account for everything and do the business in white. Otherwise, look at it from the point of view of an investor. The investor is putting his hard-earned money. He needs protection for that money. He's not taking any real estate collateral from you. He has the entire risk is investor's risk. He just has some clauses on the shareholders agreement. So, having a proper audited balance sheet is very important for the investor. There are no two ways about it. Ayush, if you want to add something, please feel free.
No, it was like really insightful. Like all the things are actually helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tushar sir. I myself have one or two questions.
Please.
First is with I think there are no questions from the audience as of now. So my question is about the timeline when a startup or a new organization should go for fundraising. Does the timeline matters? And if it is, so how a startup or an entrepreneur have to select a sector? Is he or she depending upon the sector which is booming in the country or the region around, or on the interest part of it?
Good question. India Mart, which was started with so much of effort, MSME SME in our country are really unorganized. It is a very, very unorganized sector. And uh, when India Mart was started, it was started in 1996. At that time, nobody thought that an online platform can be there for aggregating MSMEs and SMEs. And uh, so its founder is Dinesh Agarwal. So what I'm trying to tell here is that they were ahead of their time. After that, Flipkart came, Amazon came. After that, Walmart bought Flipkart. Flipkart bought Myntra. Myntra bought Jabong. And after that, Snapdeal came. Snapdeal had 24% market share. And then the share went down from 24% to 5%. And Udaan came, which is a B2B company trying to solve the problems of MSMEs through a platform. And Udaan came 20 years after India Mart. So when you are saying importance of sector, sometimes you are early. You identified the problem early, but you got benefited very late. So India Mart had its IPO, and finally they earned a lot of money through their shares. And Udaan is already a unicorn. They are 60 crore turnover and 7,500 crore valuation. Now, will they look at 60 crore turnover, or should they be happy about 7,500 crore valuation? That is the difference between balance sheet approach and profit and loss approach, which I'm trying to tell everybody. That but let me tell you, Indian government has lifted the monopoly of ISRO in the space sector. So the space sector is booming. It is a good time to enter into space. Earlier, heavy satellites were sent to geostationary orbit, which is 36,000 kilometer radius. And it called for very expensive rockets, $100 million worth of rockets. Now, the new trend is small satellites. They are called CubeSats. Sending 100 small CubeSats on a cheap rocket at a 700 to 1,000 kilometer radius orbit. So nowadays the trend is towards making cheaper rockets. So that is where the opportunity lies. The next opportunity is in direct to consumer, D2C. So you remove all middlemen. You create a new product, create a new brand, sell it through your website. That's it. You have logistics company in India, Delivery, you have so many of them. And you have the warehouse easily available. Just create a new brand, create a new website. The digital marketing has got matured. Mamaearth is making within 4 years 100 crore revenue. Licious got $135 million fundraise Series F today. It just sells meat through its website.
Yes.
So D2C has become, direct to consumer has become a $4 billion sector from 2015 till date. If somebody opened a D2C company prior to 2015, Jio hadn't come by then, so internet connectivity. The logistics company had not got matured after till then. They got matured after Amazon and Flipkart. That problem. Then cash on delivery was not invented till then, so that problem. Then all those problems he would have faced. But now D2C is booming. So other sectors, with the recent farm laws, agri-tech is booming. So the trend is farm to fork. Remove all the middlemen, do farm to fork. And fintech has been booming since a long time, but it is now entering consolidation phase. So if you are creating something which is not unique in fintech, you will have to put in a lot of money. Then education technology. You know, there were schools who said we will never adopt technology. And now all the schools are forced to adopt technology. So edtech is booming. So sectors, you can pick. Logistics is booming. The funding which is happening, Delivery is about to come out with an IPO. E-commerce is booming, but again, the winners in e-commerce have already come out, the top three. So if you are today creating an e-commerce company, you will need deep pockets, because somebody will copy you very fast. Amazon will say, oh, this guy is doing 50 crore turnover. Either I buy this guy out, or they create their own similar type of company. So because they have deep pockets. So picking the right sector, a lot of people, I will give you an example. There was a senior vice president in Paytm. His father is a doctor, where I put up in Delhi, and I know them since 30 years. He learned about Paytm after working in Paytm. He was a pass out of some London School of Economics or something like that. And then he wanted to create his own fintech company. But Paytm is like a huge tiger in the room. You can't fight with Paytm. It is $15 billion value. So he and his friends from Delhi School of Engineering, they researched which countries does not have a Paytm like company. And amongst the top 15 economies, he found out Mexico. Mexico is a big economy and it does not have a fintech company like Paytm. He packed his bags, and his three friends, they packed their bags. They left their family here. They went to Mexico and they opened Un Dos Tres. And within 1 year of opening Un Dos Tres, they got $5 million from a US company. So the sector choice and the market choice, they are both available. Look at Zilingo. Zilingo, Ankita Bose. She used to work in Sequoia Capital. And in Sequoia, she was funding companies like Udaan. She said, why should I not open my own company? So she got a friend of hers. They both went to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, and they saw that Udaan type of company is not there in Southeast Asia. She opened a small office, founded Zilingo. Zilingo became a unicorn in 3 years, and they got funded from Sequoia. So if your mind is open that for success, I will go anywhere. So you can choose your market, you can choose your sector, you can choose which kind of technology you want to work on, or you want to be in a non-technology. You have to wisely choose your team, and all those things are very important. But keep your mind open. If you keep on thinking about where you live and only about that area, then you can never become Elon Musk. You can never become Jeff Bezos. You can never become this, because these people, they left their comfort zones. So this is about the sector. And the first part of your question, Rohan, I forgot. I think you asked what is the right time to get funded. I hope that is
Yes,
right.
about the timeline.
Timeline.
And linking to that also about the trust factor when it comes to reaching to the venture capitalist and all, because there is a question on the chat, if you can see, by Abhay.
See, if you don't have a connection in venture capital fund, you give a engagement or mandate to people like me who have relationships with more than 600 investors. We will charge you naturally for services we provide, like documentation, like preparing you on unit economics, frequently asked questions, term sheet, due diligence, shareholders agreement. We have connects. If you want to do it yourself, you find out the promoters, the founders of the investee companies of the investors. So investor invested in Myntra. So Myntra founder, you try to find a relationship. if Myntra founder refers you to the investor, they will consider you very seriously. And if that is not possible, then you have to go by the LinkedIn route. And by the LinkedIn route, I mean, now you are sending a invite request to a fund guy. Naturally, the fund guy gets so many invite requests. So send a personalized invite that, my name is this, I have this startup, I want to approach you, hence this connection request. And that is one way. The way which was popular before COVID came, it was to go in events. And in events, you exchange visiting cards. And then you get 5 minutes with the investor during lunch or during after he has spoken. At that time, you just tell him, sir, nice to see you. My company is this, I do this, and I will be mailing you at your visiting card email. So he will remember that, yeah, I spoke to this guy. So that is the way. So today we are having this webinar. So, I am actually also an investor in 4 companies, but now I am not investing. Suppose you were to approach me. So you just send me a LinkedIn request invite saying that we spoke today, you answered my question today, I attended your webinar today, or you mail me, or you approach me. And then we make a connection, and then you showcase your company to me properly. So this is the way. Rohan?
Yes, thank you, Tushar sir. I have another question. Where do you see India leading in the startup ecosystem in the next 2-3 years?
See, India is a economy which has great amount of human talent and pathetic infrastructure and pathetic government support. Government support has increased in the last 6-7 years, but uh, the whole nature of public offices, government offices is very negative. So they feel that businesses are thieves. This is a byproduct of socialism since 50-60 years. But things are changing for the better. Now, you asked me, where do you see India? India would have been a $5 trillion economy today if they hadn't made mistakes. India made huge number of mistakes. In 2012, the government at that time, they gave 20 lakh crore worth of loans from government banks to private companies. And out of that 20 lakh crore, you can imagine that how they gave that money. Out of that 20 lakh crore, 13 lakh crore money never came back. And those companies, they went into bankruptcy. Now, any government who loses 13 lakh crore just in 1 year, the banks don't have a capacity to lend. And in India, you get a loan for 12%, 10%. In China, you get it for 4%. In US, you get it for 0.5%. So from a financing perspective, if you want your product to compete with China, Japan, US, you are already at a disadvantage because the money you are using is costly. Then in 2012, they brought out the Land Acquisition Act. So all infrastructure which would be created, if you are buying a land from a farmer, you have to pay 4 times the market price. That is what the law says. In China, they created high-speed rail network, world's largest, in 7 years. 40,000 kilometers. And all that rail network, it requires straight lines. So it requires to remove villages, to remove structures, and thus make a straight line. Can you do it in India? Land Acquisition Act, you have to pay 4 times the market price. So,
Yes.
so whenever I talk about India, but the good parts are there. There are many good parts. Startup India, DPIT, Invest India, they were started by this government. There are 50,000 startups registered. Technology startups are booming across the country. Consumer startups are booming across the country. What is happening is that companies are opening holding companies outside India. So they will keep a holding company in Singapore, they will keep a holding company in Dubai, and they will make a subsidiary here. So the ownership of companies is getting transferred from India, because like Walmart bought Flipkart. So it bought out the holding company which was in Singapore, because they feel very comfortable. Singapore hai, here the laws work. India mein the courts don't work. If you go to the court with the contract, sir, enforce my contract, the court will say, I will take 20 years. Will you wait for 20 years to get your contract enforced? Nobody will wait. So the contracts, so that is why they open companies outside India, Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, UK, US, so that the contract enforcement is there. And they keep human resources always from India, because in India there is a fashion of doing a job. Let's do a job, let's do a salary. Mother, father, beta, do a job. Just take a degree, get that degree in hand and take a job. So they discourage risk taking. Why I have a deep respect for Ayush Sachdeva sitting here? Because he's an entrepreneur at the age of 19. And there are very few people like that. So, India is always like, you talk of some positive stuff and then you will think of two negative stuff. Because so that is the sorry thing about here. So, I'll give you an example. You want to open a manufacturing company. Land acquisition, government won't help you. In China, you go to the office of the government department, he will take you in his car to show the land. He will build the road in 7 days. He will give you electricity and water connection in 2 days. He will come to your office, give the approval and licenses in your hand and say thank you. Thank you for opening a business here. And you will pay 3%, 4% interest rate on loan. Here you will pay 12%, 10%. So naturally, how will you compete? How can industries compete? So logistics, people say logistics companies, you have delivery, you have this. Look at their balance sheet. They're all in losses. Delivery is in loss. All the logistics company are in deep losses, because the infrastructure of this country is like a fourth world country. Poor roads, poor infrastructure. The turnaround time in Indian ports is 3 times as high as in China. So I'm very positive about India. Looking at the startups which come to me, and from a human resource perspective, I'm very bullish. But from an infrastructure, from a consumer side, I'm very bullish. India is a huge consumer economy. So, any economics graduate sitting here knows that GDP consists of investment, consumption, and exports. Indian exports have been $300 billion since 15 years. It is the same. Our exports have not increased. Investment, after the 2012 debacle of public sector banks, our investment is very bad. We don't have the money. And consumption, that is huge. We are a huge consumer economy. So if somebody wants to create a consumer company, lot of success. I hope I answered. I'm sorry I took too long a time, but I got a bit
Yes,
passionate.
yeah, but this answers most of it, because when we talk about the infrastructure part of it, and what I find with my experiences, that it's always a disintegration of several sectors involved in the government and the private when it comes to generate opportunities and again, the main crux of your deliverability was that you should be capable of taking risk. If you are capable of taking risk, then at least 10-15 years down the line, you won't sit and think of it that at that moment I haven't taken any risk. I was always going with the flow, completed my degree, did my MBA from a first tier B school, and then got a placement of very good, and I worked under someone, not with someone.
Correct. Correct.
So that is something explains everything. So thank you, Tushar sir. Now I request Ayush, if you can deliberate just for 1-2 minutes on anything what Tushar sir mentioned, or you can mention and give a brief to the attendees for tomorrow, like what a brief summary in just 1 or 2 minutes what you will be covering tomorrow, so that they will be curious before sleeping tonight that okay, we'll have a great session tomorrow also. So that
Sure, sure,
is,
Rohan, sure. So
yes.
as today we learned like what gets us funding, okay, and what is the right time to get funding, and like why venture capital is important, and for most important, how to reach to investors, right? How to connect with investors, what your startup needs to get funded, right? Tomorrow we would be understanding what is the first step of fundraising, okay? Before, after reaching out to investor, like the first thing they would be asking you is a pitch deck, okay? So the most important document, because you are actually not going to investor, your pitch deck is actually going to investors. So we would be learning about what it takes to get and like what it takes to make an perfect pitch deck, okay? What are the components of a pitch deck? And we would also be showing you a live demo pitch, okay? A live demo pitch deck in which I would be taking you personally slide by slide, okay? Like how to make each and every slide, what are the important components, okay? What are the don'ts of those slides, okay? So that after the sessions you have a basic idea. If you in future you are creating your pitch deck, you're not starting from scratch and you don't know anything, okay? You would be knowing most of the things to how to create a like investment ready pitch deck, okay?
Yes, thank you, Ayush. Thank you so much. So I think there are no more questions from the attendees side, and it was a great deliberation by Tushar sir, going with the fundraising and then the questions and how the Indian startup ecosystem is, and then focusing on the sector take and the market take, how you can select it. And as he mentioned, so you can anytime contact him uh, via LinkedIn, or he'll mention his Tushar sir, I'll request you if you can send in your email ID to all the attendees so that they can contact you in case of they are having any questions for this. Thank you,
I
sir.
have put my email ID, website, and LinkedIn on chat. I'm just putting it again.
Okay, okay, sir. Yes, I can see that. Ayush, you can also put in. You can put in tomorrow also, but if it's possible, you can also enter your contact details so that if anyone has any doubts. So yeah.
Okay. So you will have to edit this video, Rohan.
Yes, yes, sir. You can end the recording and save it. You can send it out to me as a, because I was